What we're going to do is start off by gathering in a circle and just finding a place where your body feels comfortable and nothing you can trip over. It's based on Shinrin-Yoku, which is a practice in Japan. It's been around since roughly the 1980s. Shinrin-Yoku translates to forest bathing, which essentially means just taking in the forest atmosphere in its entirety, using all of your different senses. So as a forest therapy guide, what I'm going to do is offer you what we call invitations. They're open activities to help you deepen your connection with your different senses and experience the woodland in a slightly different and more mindful and pleasurable way. Just taking a moment to notice what it's like to arrive in this place by taking a really deep and slow breath in and out. And in, right into your belly, and completely emptying your lungs with your out breath. Noticing your body's sense of gravity and the pull of the earth, and how your body wants to rest as you stand here.
So I've got a sneaking feeling, I might be wrong here, that this is something we've both done subconsciously.
Accidentally, but in a different name.
Because we regularly immerse yourself in the forest.
Over centuries, every culture has always spent time in nature in their own way, for health, for hunting, for all sorts of different reasons, relaxation for stress, to go and find answers and reflect. But forest therapy is basically a sequenced form of that. So we're going into it with a specific intention of drawing your attention to your senses rather than having a specific direction to go in or a specific outcome. It's a lot more calm and slow and just focusing on being in the present moment and enjoying that. And if you feel comfortable to do so, you might want to close your eyes at this moment and continue to focus on your breathing. And visualising your feet like roots of a tree, growing deep into the ground, becoming part of the network of the forest. That sense of rootedness, like a homecoming. And if you find pleasure here, invite that pleasure in.
We're in a wood not far away from Scone, which means we're not terribly far away from Perth Airport. You can hear planes passing over. Earlier I was listening to construction work from Perth itself. Those extraneous noises, that's not a problem?
Not really. At the end of the day, we are part of the larger planet where life cannot stop. The industrial world will not stop. It's about accepting that that's there, but also being able to let that go and enjoying what is there for you and finding the pleasure there.
Because we both get driven nuts by sounds like that, because it really intrudes on an interview. So already I'm very annoyed at the plane. But you said I've got to let it go.
Give it a chance, yeah. What can you hear around you right now?
I'm hearing a robin, and there's a rook quite a way away, and it's either a woodpecker or it's some branches banging in the wind, but there's no wind. But you get the wind through the trees as well, very gentle.
Are there any patterns in the sounds that you can hear around you?
There's a natural rhythm to the wind. The wind comes and goes. You know, you can hear it where there is foliage further up there. Not so much because we're standing in basically Scots pine, but across there, the tops, you can see them moving in the wind where it's slightly higher.
And just taking a moment to focus on your breathing again. Breathing in. And letting any thoughts or emotions that are preoccupying you, just letting them go for a moment. And just focusing on this place. What's the furthest away sound that you can hear?
I could hear a car on the road.
And what's the nearest sound that you can hear?
The sharpest one is that little bird up in the trees.
One of the tits.
Yeah. Little cold tit or something.
And the plane, obviously.
Yeah.
Turning your attention to your sense of touch, I invite you to hold out your hands as if they were sensors, and just taking a moment to notice any temperatures that you're maybe becoming aware of now as the wind brushes across your bare skin, and how that feels as the temperature changes, as maybe the wind crosses from one side of your face to another, or from one side of your hand to the other. Noticing how that feels. Does that bring any awareness perhaps to your internal landscape with temperature? With all of these layers that are on your body just now, and the warmth inside, what does that contrast feel like?
As always with these things, we spend so much time outdoors, and a lot of the time in the winter time, certainly it is cold, but it makes you appreciate sources of warmth more. So, when you come back in, you put the fire on, that kind of thing. It's an even bigger treat than just watching it. I think a lot of life nowadays is lived in relative comfort. You are in temperature-controlled environments, so to get cold can be a bit of a treat for some folk.
Absolutely, yeah.
Certainly feeling the wind, because you said there's no wind down here. But when you start concentrating, you feel the temperature difference from the right-hand side of your face to the left-hand side of your face. Very, very gentle.
Mm-hmm.
Now, drawing our attention to our sense of smell and taste. Just taking another deep breath in. Are there any certain smells or aromas that arrive on your nose now that maybe you weren't aware of before arriving here?
You can smell, admittedly at this time of year the sap is going back down into the ground, so it's not as sharp in a pine wood, but you can still pick it up, and there's an earthy smell here too. You can smell damp, if that makes sense.
It's a musty sort of smell. There's some fantastic bracket fungus over there, and there's a lot of it. I just wonder if that was adding to the mustiness.
Yeah.
And its subtlety. And now, if you feel comfortable, you might want to pop your tongue out and see if you can taste anything in the air. Noticing any textures of the air on your tongue.
I'll be honest, I can't.
No.
I can't taste anything. Can you?
No, you can feel the wind on your tongue.
Yeah.
There's a certain chill as you take your breath in. It's quite cool. But I can't taste anything.
With the colder weather, I find it's more of a temperature that I notice in the change. And again, drawing on that sense of contrast between your inner warmth and the cooler outdoors. It kind of is highlighted through even popping your tongue out for that moment. You can feel that immediate change of temperature. It's quite refreshing. It's a bit of a wake up, isn't it?
Going back to touch, the touch that I'm really most aware of is the ground underneath my feet. Because it's a bit like, if you walk into somebody's house and it's a really thick shag pile carpet or something like that, and you have that sense of luxury. It's like that here because of the sort of soft leaf mould and the mosses and things like that.
Absolutely, yeah. And just taking another deep breath in. I now invite you to experience the change in directions and what the change in directions can bring to you. So turning to where you feel might be north.
Everybody's faced in all sorts of directions. But
That's okay. And just taking a moment to notice, are there any unique qualities of facing in this direction? What kind of noises are maybe more apparent or closer? Or do things get further away when you're facing this direction?
I think you're not as happy.
not as happy pointing that way as I am pointing that way. I feel more comfortable looking to where I think the south is.
Well,
Okay.
on that note, taking the opportunity to now turn to 90 degrees to your right.
Mm-hmm.
And again, taking a moment just to take in what this direction feels like. What makes it different from our deemed north?
I would say that's darker. The woods are denser that way. It is lighter in that direction. This, it's more mysterious.
It's more colourful looking that way because of the Scotch pine. You've got the redness of the bark. Well, that, as you say, is very dense, very brown.
Hansel and Gretel.
It's kind of the wildwoods.
Mm-hmm.
It's uncomfortable. Whereas that, it's quite a happy place.
It's almost like the forest is a little bit more alive here.
Well, you've got really dark greens of holly and rhododendron, sort of coppery yellow greens of dying bracken and ferns there and things. But this moss is just, it's viridian. And it's really, it's a sort of spring green.
Yeah. Everything's springing to life even though it's still cold.
Yeah.
It just goes to show how much life is present at this time of year, which is sometimes when people miss it most. They're more wanting to be inside and be cosy, so they miss this liveliness of the forest. As a child, I spent a lot of time in nature, from holidaying up north with family, playing in different lochs and beaches and rummaging through bushes, and my mother has always had a huge interest in the outdoors. She's a forager, so we learned a lot about wild food. We had family in the Lake District as well, rolling hills, amazing oak trees, gorgeous lakes. So it's spending a lot of time outdoors, I believe, when I was younger. But then moving into a more busy, industrialised kind of lifestyle, city living, high-pressure jobs. I think in probably February this year, I had a bit of an awakening spending time in a forest near Falkirk, where I'm living at the moment, and just having a moment of thinking, wow, no, this is where I need to be. Every single minute I found that I was not at work, I was outside, and that's where I'm happiest. It's where my calm is. I'm in my element. So being able to share that with people, especially who might be experiencing a lot of stress and just getting caught up in the busyness of everything now, it's so easy to do so. It's just a pleasure to share that with people and help them reconnect in a way.
Where do you go to get trained, to get qualified?
So I trained with an association based in the US called the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy Guides and Programs, it's directed and founded by Amos Clifford. And they do a 6-month intensive practicum, which I've completed. And the first week is an intensive week-long training where you're completely submerged in nature, and learning all about the different pathways and senses and different activities and interactions that we can have outdoors. And then the rest of the practicum's actually more about your own personal nature connection pathway. So it's documenting a lot of your own experiences and just seeing where that curiosity takes you. So a bit of that is your own interest and pull in different directions with it. But we do follow a framework.
It's interesting because you mentioned the fact that a lot of people nowadays don't go outdoors. I mean, and they've got hugely stressful lives. I wonder, because you are nominated as a guide, if I've got one of those kind of lifestyles, I'm not letting myself relax. I'm not letting myself de-stress. I'm not letting myself go outside. If, however, I come to you, I'm relinquishing authority to you. It's no longer my choice. It's up to you. You are guiding me through this. And in a way, it makes it easier for them.
It is a support to an extent. I'm not a therapist. The association, our kind of ethos is that the forest is the therapist. It provides all the healing that you seek from it. It's just finding ways of being in that space comfortably. A lot of people actually that go outdoors now don't know how to feel comfortable. It can be quite scary actually, stepping into the unknown. It's not somewhere they frequent often, so it's unfamiliar, it's uncomfortable. And my role as a guide is to just check out, obviously, the trails. I check them out first, so the trails are always safe. It's a very gentle route, so I've already done the legwork to make sure that there's nothing to worry about when you come here. And that's a comfort in itself, but also sparking ideas. People might come out and think, well, what do I do when I'm out here? It's just helping growing that gentle curiosity and different ways of connecting that can make it more of a personal and enjoyable experience for them.
Here's a horrible question. What am I going to get out of this session today?
Hopefully you'll be nice and chilled out and relaxed and a little bit more connected with nature in your own way, finding pleasure in it. But there's a lot of research and studies that show that spending time in nature, especially amongst woodlands and trees, there's things called wood essential oils that you might be familiar with called phytoncides that have been studied quite well into showing that they help boost your immune system. They increase your natural killer cells, which are your disease-fighting cells. There's also proof that it helps to lower your blood pressure, inspiring creativity. There's quite a lot of different elements that you might benefit from. So we'll see how you feel at the end. Okay, so for our next invitation, I'm going to take you on a really slow and mindful walk. I'm going to lead the pace that I think is fitting for forest therapy. For some people this might be quite unnerving because they're not used to slowing down in such a way, I mean really slow. So it's preparing yourself for that, but just allowing that if anything comes up, any kind of busy thoughts or noticings that are making you feel uncomfortable, just taking a moment to accept that and just take a deep breath and let them go and just return to what is in motion around you. So you might feel a desire to touch something or smell something, interact with the natural world in your own way, and just let your senses guide you along that. And then we'll meet at the end of the trail in about 10 or 15 minutes. Okay. For this activity, I like to hand these out. So one, because it's a cold day, you've got little pocket warmers, so if you pop them, they'll warm you up and stay warm for half an hour, just because it's a bit chillier. And you lay a little magnifying glass, so if you want to get up close and curious with things and check them out. And if you notice something that brings you pleasure that you want to share with someone else, I tend to quietly tap them on the shoulder and give them a little direction, just so you can share that experience with them.
This is interesting because you can kid yourself on that you're not stressed. Your body's not at war with itself. And then you can just stand and slow down and take the time and start to look outwards. For some reason, I don't entirely understand it, you also start to look inwards at the same time. And I'm conscious of the fact that there's a pain between my shoulders that I was completely unaware of. Because I think there's a tendency to sort of get up in the morning and hurtle through the day and get on with things and just, yeah, we're fine. So we're not really listening to what our body's telling us. But Caitlin's moving at what I would describe as stalking speed. And I'm just moving very, very slowly through the landscape, occasionally stopping and touching things. The ground round about here looks like it's covered in green velvet pillows. And I know I'm going to get wet doing this, I'm not particularly bothered. I just want to lie down on it. Oh.
We can talk again.
Okay. Might not want to.
So I'm going to use this little owl collar as nature's microphone today. I invite you to take nature's microphone and share what you're noticing in this particular moment.
Well, there's a couple of things. I got a chanterelle. There's loads of fungi when you start looking, lots of wee tiny ones. Textures of the trees, the lichen. But the thing that really struck me about a living forest is the constant conflict It's supposed to be calming. But all around you there are battles. There's an oak tree about 4 inches high at Mark's feet, battling against these mighty Scots pines. It might outlive them, who knows what the future will have. Behind me we've got the rhododendron trying to take over the forest as well. Everybody wants a bit of the action. So it looks calm and serene, but there's major warfare going on. This is Game of Thrones in the forest.
I mentioned earlier the fact that the moss looks like green velvet cushions, and the temptation got too much for me, and I actually lay down and was looking upwards. And what's fascinating about the trees is they don't move in the way that stalks in a field of barley would. The wind comes from right to left, they all go one way. The trees here, they oscillate in and out all the time. They have their own rhythms. It's obviously probably dictated by length of the trunk, thickness of the trunk, that kind of thing. But it gives them an individuality that you don't really notice standing upright like this. But if you lie down, it becomes immediately apparent.
What I'm sensing in my body right now, in this moment, is a sense of calm and energy, vibrations, nerves, all falling into tune with the vibration of the earth.
Does need somebody like yourself to make you do it. I wouldn't do that on my own. I might now, but having somebody to say, you will walk slowly, or instead of careering through the forest, I think you need somebody to facilitate that.
We don't give ourselves authority to stop, to slow down. And by relinquishing authority to someone like Caitlin, that's fine. You think, well, I've got to do what she says. You should be doing what you say, but you don't ever say it to yourself.
The nature of calling our activities invitations it is truly an invite. Who am I to say that you would connect with nature in a certain way? Everyone's different, just like the personality and differences of being in the outdoors, as you said, the personalities and individuality of the trees. We're like that too. So it's giving ideas and just opening it up for people and just inviting them to sense pleasure, because pleasure in noticing things is key to building relationship, I suppose. But also there's this huge culture of shame around feeling pleasure in our society. It's almost kind of like a dirty thing, or people feel really ashamed about letting that, and it just exploring their feelings of what makes them feel good. So I guess part of my main job, as it were, is to facilitate that and show acceptance that this is a safe space for you to do that. And obviously showing people that here's some ideas, you can go and replicate this yourself, you can show others. So we end our forest therapy walks with a traditional tea ceremony. So I have the little tea set here, just with an assortment of things that I connected with. So different leaves with different textures, smells. We've got holly, pine here. We're going to infuse a tea as a way of embodying our experience in the forest today. So the tea that I normally use on the walks is foraged from that location. So today we're going to have some pine, and also just to mix it in, I've also dried some rose bay willow herb. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with rose bay willow herb. Fireweed. I've only got it in the dried, fireweed. We've got it in the dry form here right now. So I like to just pass a sample around so everyone can kind of get a smell and texture of what it is they're about to.
Smells like tea, actually. Dried tea. Very musty.
So rose bay willow herb is traditionally used in herbal medicine as an anti-inflammatory, and is also used in quite a lot of mixes for prostate health. And pine being very antiseptic.
Yeah. You've got a Kelly kettle behind you. One of those wonderful devices that you've just used a few twigs and bits of bark to boil this up.
My wonderful little friend goes everywhere with me. And we're just going to infuse that for a couple of minutes. And at the end of the walk is also an opportunity for people to share anything that makes them feel complete with their experience. So if you would like to say even a couple of words. We like to say a kind of thanks to the forest for having us as we've come into the home of many other beings. So there's a special cup here, this wider one here. That's the forest cup. So the forest always gets the first drink of the tea. We make an offering as a symbol of gratitude in a way. So we're just going to pour these out. So we're going to take the first sip together. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Thank you.
And would anyone like to say a few words to the forest and offer the first cup out? Or
I'll give it a go.
just whatever comes to mind.
Yeah. Just, it has been nice being outside and made to feel welcome. It's been really quite healing too, just to have the time to shed off some of the stresses of everyday life and enjoy the green, enjoy the life. So do I pour it into the ground?
Pour it into the ground, wherever you
Okay.
feels best.
So this is for the forest.
And then slowly all together, I like to just do a kind of fill the whole forest experience in
Yeah.
and take the first sip. There we go.
It's actually really nice. I don't
Quite
mean
a nice blend, isn't it?
I don't mean to sound surprised, but I am.
There's even just the heat emanating from the cup and the smell, the kind of aroma that's giving off. Just taking an opportunity to notice what that's like.
You've laid out almost like a little bamboo mat here with the cups and the pots on it, and decorated it with little sprigs of pine and bracken and holly. And on it, these little things, what are these?
So those are scrolls, which I thought that I would give these scrolls away with you. So they have a little prompt in them. You're welcome to open up and read one out if you like, but they're for you to take home. And when you next have a moment in nature, you just have a little mindful moment to read your scroll. And it's between you and the forest from there.
Take some time to think of the small moments that you experience in nature that makes life special. Find a way to give thanks to the forest.